What's going on? How you doing?
Hey, pretty well, man. Nice to see you. It's nice to be here. Yeah, super cool. As I mentioned, it's nice to be hanging out and chatting with you after enjoying enjoying you online so much, enjoying all your stuff on Instagram, man. It's great.
Well, thank you for watching, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you now live. How long you been living in Berlin?
I've been in Berlin for 5 years. Um, Holy shit. Coming up on 6.
Wow.
And, yeah, almost 6 years, and then, had to, like, calibrate my sense of time there. It's 5, 6, 10. Berlin's a time warp. I don't know anymore. I've forgotten. Is it the year, 2022? What is this?
I don't know.
But I lived in Germany for 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I lived in Freiburg and Breisgau for 3 years.
Okay.
So I got a taste of like Germany, and then Berlin, which, doesn't necessarily represent the rest of the country so much culturally or otherwise.
I hear this a lot, and I mean, I kind of get it. I've been to Munich. I've been to other cities in Germany, but like, what was the difference from you between like Germany, or like I guess this outside of Berlin and then Berlin?
um, I think, Berlin's just like super multi-culti, and you get that a lot. You really feel like you're in an international city here, which you are. You feel it, and you're just likely to encounter people on the street that are not exuding Germanness. You're hearing other languages, you're seeing other behaviors. Um, and like when I was in southern Germany, the people there were just like a lot more quiet, and one of the biggest craziest things I think to get used to as an American in Germany is the staring, the German stare.
Yeah. How was your experience with that when you
And
first encountered that?
you don't get that as much in Berlin compared to other parts of Germany. And like my wife, for example, has lived in Berlin for like 11 years, but um I took her down to southern Germany at one point, and it's like, this is where I used to live. Let's check it out. And it's near the Black Forest, so it's a
Mhm.
great place to bring a loved one on a vacation, because it's actually a really lovely part of Germany, like geographically.
Right.
And and I kept on being like, the German staring kind of bothers me. And she's like, the whole time she's like, it's not that big a deal. Like,
Mm.
what, the Germans don't stare as much. I think you're exaggerating. I think it's all in your head. I'm like, no, seriously. I'm like, you don't encounter it as much in Berlin, so you don't know what I'm talking about. But I swear it's a thing. We went down to southern Germany together, and we just went into this restaurant near where I was staying. I work as a tour guide too, so I work
Oh,
in
nice.
Breisach, or I used to
Nice.
work down there and gave e-bike tours of the Black Forest. It's a little town that is like right on the Rhine River, right on the border of Germany and France.
Mm.
And so we went to a nice restaurant there. It's up on the hillside, like by this old castle, a really cool old city. Breisach is super cool. And so we went in there, and it was dead silent. But
Wow.
there was a lot of people in there. It was just a lot of people were in there, and it was dead silent.
What? How many people were in there?
I'd say like maybe a dozen to 20 people. And there was like, it was the outside part. It was a lovely summer day. It wasn't like a cold Berlin winter day. Nobody has an
Right.
excuse to just be miserable.
It was actually nice.
It was
Yeah.
nice. There's a view. You can see the whole Rhine River Valley below you. It's kind of on this hill. It's a beautiful place. The kind of environment you would expect people to be enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And we walk in, and everyone just,
Just staring.
yeah, like that record skip or something,
Whoa.
And then we're like, okay, it's like the Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and we're like, let's just have a seat, and there we go. And then the couple, there's two couples of old people, and they're just like, what they were doing, I think, before we got there was staring in silence at each other for fun or whatever. And now they turned their gaze to us. And my wife says, like, audibly, like, so they can hear, but what else are you gonna do? She's like, wow, I see what you mean. You weren't exaggerating. I'm like, I told you. I told you. Once you get out of Berlin, but especially when you're down in this part,
Yeah.
this is how it is.
That's you know what? Now you putting the things together, right? If they were just staring at each other for the whole time sitting there, I mean, you know, it makes sense to stare at you. Kind of like, all right, well, I'm done staring at your face for.
Yeah. Let's switch it up.
Let's make it spicy. Let's spice up the relationship. Let's look at other people.
Look, other people came in to stare at. It's like change the TV channel to like a brand new cable station. My God, it's foreigners too. This is going to be extra entertaining.
Ooh, this is foreign this is foreign cinema. Wow.
Televisio. Yeah. So,
Oh shit.
and I had, when I lived in Freiburg too, I had some friends come in to visit me that were like here to party, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they said the same. This was before I had been to Berlin really very much. And so they were like, yeah, we love doing drugs and partying, but I tell you, when you're on the public transit in Freiburg, it's scary because everyone stares at you. You get on the train and like literally everyone on the train kind of looks up at you and holds the stare.
Wow.
And if you're like on some drugs, you're just going to be like, what? I would be freaking out, you know?
Right.
Even if I was just a little bit stoned, I'd be like, this is, you know, normally I'm not the kind of stoner that gets paranoid, you know? I smoked weed for a long time, so my tolerance is beyond that and everything.
You're advanced level stoner.
Yeah, although when I moved to Germany, I smoked a lot less weed, so my tolerance went down a lot from when I lived in the US. But still, like, even if I just had a little bit of weed and would go out on the public transit, I quickly learned, don't do that. It's so scary. Like, everyone looks at you and you're just like, you know, it's just too off-putting. And then my friend said that too. And then they went to Berlin and they came back and visited me a few weeks later. And they were like, oh yeah, dude, Berlin, it was so nice. We went and partied. The party culture there is so cool. It's so welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
You can go out, you can be on the transit. People aren't going to stare at you. You can be going from party to party and going to the clubs, and it's very comfortable. And we didn't have this same issue of like being on drugs and getting the shit freaked out of us by the looky-loos on the public tram, you know,
just staring at you.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then, you know, a couple years later I moved up here and I remember what they said. And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense for sure, dude. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I can be baked in Berlin and just be chilling, you know, it's fine. Like, yeah, no issues, no paranoia, no freaky deaky. I also noticed that when you go out of the city though, this is the thing, check it out. Next time you go out of Berlin,
right.
when you're on the train, just notice each stop, you know, if you're on the Deutsche Bahn, like you'll notice people will stare at you more and more, like increasingly, until you're about an hour or two outside the city, like maybe to Wolfsburg or Magdeburg or so, and you're about there. You'll notice like everyone's kind of staring at you and the train gets quieter and quieter. And like, you notice this gradual, like getting out of Berlinness, you know?
That's when you feel like you go into a dangerous neighborhood. You start noticing some changes like, oh, wow, it's getting quieter. Oh, people staring at me more. Oh, I think I missed my stop.
Oh no, I'm stranded in Brandenburg.
Please help me. Everyone's looking at me and not saying anything. It's too silent in here. This is a scary movie. I will get abducted. Help.
Yeah, man. There is that feeling sometimes. It can be a little off-putting. But on the other hand, to be fair, I totally get that. Like a lot of people say that Americans are very loud, and for an American, I've become conscious of the fact that I am a loud person, even for an American, which is nice for when I'm doing my stage performance work. But when I'm just chilling at a restaurant or something, like, oh shit, I think I'm annoying people. I forgot. I better tone it down a little.
So what part of the States you from?
I'm from Idaho, but I grew up in Idaho, and then I moved to California, and I lived in California, Oregon a lot, off and on as an adult.
Wow.
And my family then moved to Colorado, so I spent a lot of time in Denver as well. But even that, man, like I had a big culture shock moving even from like Idaho to California, you know?
Really?
Yeah, because when I graduated university from University of Idaho, the first place I went and lived was in Berkeley.
Mm.
and Berkeley and Oakland off and on, depending on which side of Ashby I was on that year, which I was living on with my subletting. It was a little
Mhm.
like Berlin, bouncing back and forth
Right.
with sublets.
Shit.
And but the first like week I was there, I was living in like North Oakland, and I was just like this. I was a naive young country boy coming from Idaho to the big city to pursue my dreams. And it was really like out of it's a stupid character out of a movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, straight out of Idaho. The university town I was at was like a very rural, safe, like white place where just everyone was getting drunk all the time. A lot of just stupid people, going to bars and being drunk on the street and coming home, and like just then the cops would look the other way. And then I moved to like Oakland, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. All of a sudden, I'm in like a very, very urban place. The crime there is a little different than in
A little different.
Boise and everything, where
Yeah.
I grew up. And people say, "Hey, look, you gotta be careful." There's like streets you can go down and streets you can't go down, and people say like keep your windows rolled down to your car because people will
Oh.
break into your car to steal your stereo anyway. So at least you can make sure your windows aren't broken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You was in Oakland for real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, well, okay. I listened to the words, but
You was like, what? No, this is a shortcut to get to home. I should take this street.
Yep. Yep. And I
Ah.
got really too drunk at this bar. And I'm like, I live close enough. I walked from Berkeley to Oakland. And then the first like 2 weeks I got jacked like this guy, like just straight up because I was so stupid.
Yeah.
I was like I was drunk and singing. I remember singing. I was going,
You was singing in the middle of Oakland?
yeah, just being like la 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 la. Seriously, like a stupid movie character, just from the rural sticks of like backwater USA, and just being like,
Oh,
golly
wow.
jeepers, la 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 loo la. And this guy's like, all right, give me the whole thing, and I'm like, okay. And yeah, then I was like very browned out, so I don't completely remember the whole thing, but I remember coming back, and then that was my educational experience to have my shit together.
Did you sing after you got robbed?
Um, maybe I sang into my tears later
Start
on.
singing the blues.
Yeah,
Mm.
just like ow, 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 ow.
Start singing sad music.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
was sad. And then I was like, okay. But then I watched my ass from then on. I did learn. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not like fucking Idaho anymore, dude. This is like
Damn, but to be singing on the streets in Idaho? Like, I mean, that's a you thing.
that's just me. No, yeah, that's just
Oh,
me.
okay, all
That's
right.
not something we do in Idaho.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to assume, but
Nah,
I
I mean,
mean,
the
you
people-
know, this is you the first person I really kind of talk to from Idaho. So singing,
It's
in a
not part
new-
of the culture.
Okay, I thought singing in a new.
Yeah, we all just walk down the street singing
Yeah.
Garth Brooks and with cowboy boots and
Yeah.
doing line dancing, and it's like the Music Man, just
That's the best way to find your way home. You know, at this hook or whatever, this is where I gotta make a right. You know?
Oklahoma, okay.
Oklahoma. Oh, okay, make a right here. All right.
Nah, that's just me being a nut, being a fucking loon, and being yeah. Sometimes I like to sing, on the street.
Nah, I mean, hey, that's dope. I mean, you are an artist, so you're a true artist to be singing in the middle of Oakland when you first got there. That is some real artistry right there.
That's yeah. It's fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb.
It's dumb but creative, you know?
But yeah, I survived. I learned, you get the wisdom out of the experience. So that whatever. It maybe saved my ass from making that mistake in some other context, some other time, some other place. So
Yeah.
but that was like one of the biggest culture like the third culture, like stepping outside. It wasn't leaving a different country. It was just going to a different state, you know?
Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in terms of, I was going to ask you this in Idaho, do you guys have like streets you should not walk down on because it's like a dangerous street or anything? Is there such a concept as of a dangerous street in Idaho?
Um, Not really, man. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I think I don't know, maybe like in Garden City or something, I guess. It used to be kinda but nothing like when you live in a real big city. Nothing like Portland or the Bay Area or New York or something, you know. It's you can walk down. I lived there as a teenager and would ride my bike all over the city at night and stuff. And yeah, there was no place I ever felt like I really had to watch my ass, you know?
Wow, that is so interesting. I don't even know that word because, like, when I grew up, there was always street. It was so crazy. There's streets where it's like if you walk on the street, you will get punched in the face. This is get punched in the face street. Like
Yeah.
if you get here, you will get punched, and it happened. Like it happened consistently, unless
Yeah.
you knew the people that did the punching in the face, and even then, you had to be friends with them. Like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
You gotta you gotta at least be able to be on the terms where you give them a fist bump or else the fist gets bumped into your face.
right? Yeah,
Um, but yeah, man, that's how it was, of course. Yeah, when I lived in like the other cities, like when I lived in Portland and the Bay. So yeah, so I learned that's normal. That's like in a normal city. But Idaho was just so backwater, you know. It's just so yeah, so kind of really a rural the most of that state is covered in like the woods, you know, like 70%
oh,
of it is actually like wilderness forest
it's
land.
forest. I thought it was farmland for some reason. It's all forest.
Well, yeah, last I checked anyway, which was many years ago, maybe it's different now. But
Yeah, maybe
like,
cleared it.
yeah, maybe it's down to like 60%, who knows, but they're
Yeah.
chopping away.
Right.
But it's you know, this state that's notable for its redneck culture, I think because it attracts those people that want to go and live out of the way and be like extreme introverts, live in the woods and have their cabin and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, um yeah, that was a huge shock to me though when I went to the Bay, man. I loved
Damn.
it. It was a nice it was in a lot of ways a nice place to be living in the Bay Area. Expensive as shit though.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
expensive.
I
Good
could
food though.
Really nice food, yeah,
Yeah,
really nice food.
good Japanese food, good tacos too.
Yeah, that's what I miss is, one thing I miss about living in the US is the Mexican food.
Yeah, especially on the West Coast, bro. You was living life eating all that Mexican food because like Mexican food on the West Coast,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. It's like I grew up with that as, like, one of the main things I loved about food culture, so it actually took me a while to find some places in Berlin where I could have good Mexican, but I found finally this place called Chaparro. It's over
Shabar, okay.
in Kreuzberg, and the guy that runs it is like from Mexico, I think. And he really puts the work into like he soaks the peppers and grills it in their own oils for hours so it soaks up the flavor. And the spice is like that's one thing I miss is the spice, you know.
Yeah.
And he is like authenticizing the spice.
Wow.
It is just wow, it's like fire. It is so good.
Damn, I gotta go check it out. Yeah, there's another taco spot. Mexican spot. It's in this food hall or something like that. I don't know the name of it. Something Oro, something
It's the
Del
Marked
Oro.
Hall 9.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's in there. Yeah, it was very, very good. But I mean, like a couple handful of good Mexican spots here in Berlin, it seems like.
Yeah, well, I used to say when people say, "What do you miss about the US?" I'd say, "I miss Mexican food, legal weed, and my friends and family." But now that I found a good Mexican spot and they legalized weed in Germany, that's two down, and the last one's irreplaceable. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of starting your family here a bit, you know?
Yeah,
So
it's true. Yeah, I'm now a proud dad, so I'm really looking forward to Christmas. Actually, this will be my first Christmas in Berlin, just with my new son and my wife. And last
wow.
year we went back, so I'm really looking forward to that actually, because travel stress. A lot of the travel stress last year like canceled out any joy of being with
Yeah.
your family at the holidays. whole half my family caught COVID, and then
Oh.
also we went on the 11-hour plane ride with this boy who's not even a year old, just crying, and
Ooh.
it's yeah. Now it's just gonna be the most chill Christmas. I'm so stoked.
Yeah. Wow, that's so crazy though. I think you're the first person I talked to, maybe on this podcast, who just recently had a kid in Berlin, and as as an American living here.
Yeah.
Like, how was that navigating? Because there's so many like things you have to mindfully like deal with when you're, especially when you like, you trying to find animal dung, or like you trying to like register your name to this and everything. Was it like very complicated when you had your kid and like had to deal with German bureaucracy?
Um, yeah, I mean, it wasn't too much more complicated than anything else, I guess, the same kind of paperwork you gotta do for a lot of the other stuff. We did have to have a lot of papers though, man. Yeah, a lot of from what I understand, papers that you don't have to have in other if you have a kid in other parts of the world. We'd have our own birth certificates and stuff, and we had to get a collection going.
Wow.
And then yeah, we went and we weren't sure. I remember it was like, it's just a stressful time anyway, when when you're during the birth, and then you go to get the birth certificate printed out afterwards, and or you want to get it sent to you, so you bring the paperwork and then you give it to them, like, all right, it'll be in the mail, and you're like, there's always in Germany, you're like, are you sure it's
Yeah.
gonna be in the mail? There's
Right.
always, we've been kind of trained that is it actually gonna happen?
Right.
Because sometimes, like in this bureaucratic processes in these country, like sometimes the bureaucratic agency will fuck it up, and then you're left like, hey, what's happening, and then when you finally badger them enough to get their attention, and then they're like, oh yeah, and then you're like, oh yeah, I guess we made a mistake anyway, now you have to take care of our mistake, kind of, attitude. Have you ever, that's a thing, and so I'm like, I don't want that to happen. I really hope it gets here. And then we waited and we waited, and then it got there, and it was
Oh,
like
nice.
totally fine. It was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it was like a couple, they said it would be there in a couple weeks, and then it wasn't. And then you're stressing. Like, I just gave like my birth certificate to these people, sensitive paperwork. I want to trust they're not going to mess it up. Like, also,
Yeah.
sometimes mail doesn't arrive, and you're like, where's the package? Like, you're like, if they didn't lose
Oh.
my birth certificate.
Yeah, sorry, you wasn't at home, so we actually returned it back to the sender. What? That's me.
Yeah.
Like, how you talk? Wait, where's my birth certificate? What do you mean sender?
Yeah.
I'm the person.
And why do you need my birth certificate for my kid? Like, ugh.
Wow.
But also I've heard, yeah, like mothers have said, hey, there's extra work you got to do with the paperwork when you're having a kid in Germany.
Mm.
But on the other hand, I mean, the healthcare here is so good and everything, and so that was part of the reason I wanted to come here long ago, was I thought it would be a good place to have a family. Back
Wow.
then, it was sort of like, in my head, it was unlikely that was ever going to happen, but I'm like, it would be nice. Maybe it'll happen. And then now that it has, it's like the system here is so helpful, so set up for families.
Ah.
The Jugendamt is there and offers so many resources for you. They have a Habame actually come in, a woman who helps the new mother, and then the family comes into the house, a trained professional that comes in, answers your questions, helps to take care of the kid, helps weigh the kid, helps to, and you really need, especially when you're like just two foreigners and you're like not sure, and it's your first kid. It
Yeah.
is so helpful, man.
Like,
It's
I
really
mean, I
good.
don't even know how to say diapers in German. Like, it'd be so, I mean, Scheiße is like shit, right? But
Yeah, yeah. It's wo geht die Scheiße, dieses Kind? Es ist
They're like, excuse me? Entschuldigung?
question number one. Are reusable diapers a good idea?
Oh, yeah. Whoo, yeah. Reusable. Wow,
That's the
reusable.
thing. If we didn't do it, I like consider myself. I want to try and be good for the planet with my consumer choices, but the reusable diaper was just no. We just
Yeah.
Sorry.
Isn't it funny that with the environment, it's like, yeah, all good until there's shit involved. When
Yeah,
there's shit
yeah.
involved, this needs to be disposable and never reusing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the line, dude.
I want my cardboard to have no shit on it ever.
I don't want like the shit particles to be in my washer, and it's just the thought of it. I don't know.
Yeah. You see, you smell a faint smell of shit. You like, I need to throw the washer away. I need to throw it away. I can't. What am I gonna do?
Thought I was gonna save money on the diapers instead of just buying a new washer every fucking year.
you just by the time your kid turns 5, you're down 1,000 washers.
Yeah, backfired. But yeah, man, the Habame comes, and then there's like the state support. You get Elterngeld. You get money to help support you while you're off of work. You also get a fraction of your salary, like 70% or so. While you're for the first months, you get to have time off of work if you want.
Wow.
You get like the first, I forget what it was already. I want to say the first year or so, you can get that fraction of the salary, but you can actually get like take leave off of work up to like 3 to 8 years of the kid's life, just to like, you won't get paid or nothing, but you can just be off of work and sort of yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable from an American perspective.
Yeah, it's crazy. Wow. I'm
You're
like, yo, you got me thinking of some stuff. That's crazy.
The joke, what's the joke? Like, the state provides so well for you in your first year of parenthood that if a German had a kid every year, they would never have to work again.
That's funny. I mean, I guess maybe that's the promotion of having more kids or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, yeah, please, we'll cover it. Don't worry about it.
The country has a negative birth rate, I think, right? So
right, just like
yeah. So they need some encouragement. They're like,
please, we need people to pay into the system. Let's go.
Yeah, it's facing like this crisis where the elderly population is going to be bigger than ever, and then there's not going to be enough people of working age putting money into the system to help take care of the old people. It's like a thing that's projected for some years from now.
Yeah, Germany, United States, South Korea, right?
Oh, really? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
they're also having this issue.
Yeah, even Japan, I hear is so crazy that they actually are building robots to help take care of the elderly because it's so serious.
Dang, that sounds okay. Kind of cool. I mean, if I was elderly.
Yeah, but then there's going to be a civilization full of robots, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but Japan, man, they're ahead of the game in all robotic technology. A civilization of robots. That's where we're all heading anyway, though. Whatever.
Pretty much. We all got ChatGPT, right?
The AI. I still have resisted. I just had a discussion about this with this guy the other night about like, I resist the ChatGPT, but I know eventually it'll get me. I'll get it.
It's so good, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. I am knee full deep into that pool of AI. Yeah, I mean, I'm not chest. I'm knee. So like, I still have hope, and I still think of like reality as being better. But yeah, ChatGPT. Even my mom used it. That's surprised. When my mom said she used it for something without me being involved, I was like, all right. AI is getting a little too far. What's going on? Whoa, you're taking over my mom now? What's happening?
Yeah.
She usually calls me for help. Now you're taking over my job as a son? I don't like this.
Soon she will come to ChatGPT for love. She's like, my son doesn't ever call anymore. Can you just replicate my son's voice and tell him that he missed me?
Yeah, right. I call. I just go straight to voicemail. She blocked me and shit.
Yeah, I already had the call today. You said you'd call on Sunday. It's 8 in the evening. I had it at noon with tea. Thanks.
Yeah. Now I gotta make an appointment with my mom just because AI has now taken all the slots.
But that's why, like, I'm resisting because I don't need it. But that's what the point I realized with the discussion I had with this guy the other night. I was like, when would I actually? And he's like, well, look, it helps me save me time at work, and I know that's what a lot of people are using it for. And I'm like, okay, I think it'll save me time. Then if I have a job and it saves me time at work, then yeah, of course I would use it.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So when it gets to that point, when there's a necessity and it's time consuming and there's something else I'd rather be doing, and it's not my own creative thing, and I like doing my own creative thing, I don't want a robot to replace it, then yeah, sure. Sure. If I had a job, I'm getting like X amount per hour and I can have a little bit of that time back to myself if I just get a robot involved, bring on the robots.
There you go. Bring on the robots. I don't want to do this job anymore. Take care of it, which
Yeah.
we all don't want, I mean, that's hopefully what AI would do.
But then
Maybe.
it is taking over the creativity stuff, and
Yeah.
that's where I was something about a creative project I was working on, and I'm like, I'm having trouble figuring out. I think it was like something with social media videos or something. And he's like, ChatGPT will help you. I'm like, no, I wanna do my creative work myself. I don't want
Yeah.
the robots to replace my creative work, even if the my creative work sometimes involves struggles and challenges and things that aren't my forte, like working with social media and editing videos and stuff. Like I want to do that work myself,
Right.
because then when I do master it, it's rewarding to creatively make those videos, and to creatively use social media. That I want to do that.
Right. No, I mean, exactly. And I think to your point too, I had a talk with a friend too. He was very doom and gloom about AI, which I mean reasonably so, right? I
Yeah.
think we all watch Terminator, right? One and two, right? We all kind of know how it could play out, right?
Yeah.
Black guy with a lab coat and a key get shot, and then everything.
Yep, that's it. All's downhill from there, man.
It's one black guy with a lab coat that we need to protect. If he dies, Skynet is gonna win.
It's that and then robots and nuclear bombs, dude, real
Yes,
quick.
and protect anyone with the last name Connor. But with AI and art, I think that the thing I was arguing with him, right? Because he was like, "Well, aren't you scared that this may take over your art or so in terms of doing comedy or acting and things?" And I was like, "Well, I think us human beings still have this way of synthesizing information quickly." Or like in different ways. Like, for example, you can look at the sky, I look at the sky. We can create two different stories from it, right?
Mhm,
I don't know, or they always say like when two people see a car accident, there's two different stories. Like
mhm,
somebody can see the same thing and have like oh my gosh, there are flames and this and that and blah blah. And somebody it was a person that did a Tom Cruise move or something. And for me, I'm like, it was a fender bender.
mhm.
But I think with the synthesization of information and like how you and your life, like you grew up in Idaho, got robbed in Oakland, singing, right? So the way you're gonna interpret things is
Yes,
gonna be
we'll never forget
different.
it.
You might turn into a musical. I don't know, right? Like, AI can't do that. AI is gonna be like for you, you're gonna be like la la, and then make it into your
The
own.
human wild card factor. How fucking nuts can this human being get? The AI will never get that crazy.
At all. Yeah, it's too irrational.
Yeah. The irrationality, dude. The human irrationality factor.
Yeah, AI was like, I would never sing in Oakland.
Yeah,
For you, he's like,
AI
no,
would
this
be
is my
like,
art.
I'm a being of logic. I'm not going to stumble through Oakland at night singing. Fucking idiot.
We already calculate the probabilities of me being safe doing that. So and you're like, oh no, I forgot about. I just wanted to sing more.
That was back before the internet too, which I noticed the difference too. Like, I mean, the internet as we know it, that was back in the mid 2000s when I moved over there.
Hmm.
So, you weren't using the internet to like research a bunch of stuff
Oh,
before you went to a place.
yeah.
And so that was a different thing too when I moved to Germany. By then, I moved to Germany in 2016. And then the internet had become a tool where you could, it was a regular thing to be looking stuff up before you did it. So that's why like yeah, I went to Freiburg actually was because it looked like a cool part of Germany. It had the Black Forest. I looked up all the stuff about it, had the university. It was a fairly international city. And you can look up stuff about the culture. Like when people moved to Germany, when I first was like looking at Germany way back in the mid 2000s, it was like language courses. I was like looking up, I'd get stuff from the library. It was talking a lot about the language. There wasn't a lot of stuff about the culture. Now you can Google and you just go to all the articles. They're all saying a lot of the same stuff. They're like, hey, it's so crazy. People don't walk across the street at traffic lights and everything's closed on Sundays. So make sure you got your shit together on Saturday.
Yeah.
And so you can get that information before you're going out into the wild world.
Wow. So
And
you came to Berlin with no. I mean, okay, let's even talk about that because you lived in all these places in the States. So, what made you move to Berlin? Was it you kind of said because of the societal things, but what was like what was the number one thing that made you move to Berlin?
I think that, I was well, I tried to get into the university in Freiburg for a couple tries to this grad program that was
Mhm.
really high in demand. It was a long shot, for me to try it, but after a couple tries, I thought, I've been doing music for decades now, and I love it. I think I was thinking of trying to just do a little career change and get a job that makes more money and stuff. But I was like, whatever. I've been putting a lot of work my whole life into just working at a performance career,
Mm.
and Berlin's got that going on.
Oh, yeah.
Freiburg did not. So there was not very many opportunities to play music there or do acting and stuff and do live performance. So I came up here as a draw for the big city, of the what I call the Berlin nightlife circus,
Ah.
where there's just so much stuff going on here. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like it's even overwhelming, like this whole phenomenon that some people experience, where you get here and then you want to do all the stuff, and then you're doing all the stuff, and then you get burnt out because you're doing so much stuff, and then you need to just take some time to chill and do nothing for a few weeks because you're just like, dude, oh my God, like there's
Yeah.
so much stuff happening all the time. It's very overstimulating. It can be overstimulating. But when it totally worked. Now, I'm so happy with it. It's so cool. When I first came here, I was actually doing stand up also for the first 3 years I was here.
Wow.
And then when I had my kid, I had to kind of focus on. I was doing a lot of stuff, and then I had to focus on just doing certain stuff. I'd gotten back into doing improv after taking a long time off of it, but I used to do improv frequently when I was younger, and I got back into it here. I took some classes, and I thought improv would help my stand up. I basically took improv classes to help with my crowd work,
Mm.
and then as I was taking the improv classes, I was just like, dude, I miss improv and I miss the stagecraft of it. I miss how that's a little more linked into the theater world. And
Yeah.
so because as time becomes limited after you become a parent, I was like, okay, let's lock it in and just work on improv and doing rock and roll music, and that's going to be like the two things. But I started doing like musical stand up here, and as you know, man, like the stand up scene alone in Berlin is like just so explosive. There's so much going on. Let alone everything else, music nights and whatever else, dance, art performance, all that stuff. There's so much of it. It's nuts.
It's crazy. And then, you came here during 2016, so things are probably a lot different than it is now.
Yeah, I moved to Berlin in 2019, so I had one solid pre-COVID year in Berlin.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's in Freiburg,
yeah, I was in
2016.
Freiburg for 3 years, and but yeah, they were a little different. But you know, I'm actually uh, quite happy with how a lot of the performance nights and events in Berlin are even after COVID, on this side of COVID, are still really well attended. A lot of
Mm.
people go out to enjoy live entertainment in Berlin. That's something I really love about it. In Portland, when I was there, I was in a rock band, and sometimes you'd go your band to be playing, or you'd go see other bands or whatever, and the crowd could be sparse even if the band was like really awesome, and it should have kind of a more of a draw. And I've
Mm.
heard some friends in Ireland, and my friends of mine in Ireland say the same thing. They're like, it's hard to get people out in Ireland and stuff,
Wow.
but here, like, I think people come here and they want to go out to
Mhm.
have their entertainment, to have some live entertainment. It keeps the pond full of life here. The
Yeah.
stimulation and it was like that before COVID. And I remember thinking, oh, I wonder if that'll change. But now, as things have kind of reemerged, when I go out to see things or do things, there's often very, very a lot of people there. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and as you said, it's very explosive here. A lot of people support art here. like as a person who lived in New York City for a while, and that's where I started comedy, did acting, improv. I did improv. I did clown.
Really? Did you do
Yeah.
like professional clowning?
I guess professional. I did classes, yeah. So I
Awesome.
went to this guy. He basically studied under Gaulier in Paris.
Okay.
That clown school, Gaulier, Philippe Gaulier in Étampes,
I take it
France.
that's a famous clown. I don't know my clowns.
Yeah, if you know Dino and Vigo, let me see who some other people. Sasha Baron Cohen.
Oh,
Um,
he has background in clowning too. That makes
yo,
sense. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I mean, that dude's a complete. But being out there, like art is supported only in the guys that if you're famous or if you're at that level where you should be supported, it
Mm.
makes sense to. Then people will,
Hmm.
but it won't support you at the starting level, i.e. And when I say support, just like coming out to the show, right?
Yeah.
And it even come down to like some of your family, friends. That's a common thing of a performer in the States of like you tell your friends and stuff, hey, come out to my show this time. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then
Yeah.
don't
And then you're
come.
like, where were you at my show? You said you'd come to the show.
Yeah, I was kind of busy. I was watching Jeopardy and then I just couldn't make it. I had popcorn. I didn't want to get it cold.
It was slightly raining, so you know.
Yeah, hydroplaning, that's dangerous. That's a thing. And you're like, all right, But
Yeah.
here, I mean, that was the thing that made me move here to Berlin. People were like, oh, I like the thing you're doing. Where else can I see you? And then
Yeah.
actually come for real. And you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean, and I always feel like so much gratitude for it. It's like after years in the States of that struggle and then becoming sort of almost calloused to it, and
Yeah.
then you're here, and then I actually did like my first show since my son was born. Again, I focused only on improv and rock band for the last 2 years, and then I did my first kind of solo show where I was doing a lot of my own stuff on my acoustic guitar just a couple
Mm,
weeks ago, the first one since my son was born. So
nice.
I was really it was a really big deal for me, and I wanted people to come and then they did. And at the end, sometimes I get a little bit like gushing, I'm like, be conscious of your gushing, Jake. Do not gush. Do not give the thanks too much. It'll make it awkward.
Do not gush.
Because I'm like, oh, thank you. Oh my God. Like, I love you guys so much. It means so much to me. Like, really. I just want people to know that I'm not bullshit and it's not fake. It's not flattery. It's like when they all come out, you're really like that really, really means so much to me. It is,
Yeah.
you put so much work into it, so much hours and hours of work in your heart and your soul. And then when people come and support and they're enjoying what you're doing, you're just like, this is so cool and so rewarding and so different from
So
how it
different.
used to be.
It's like you gotta pull people's teeth for them maybe to come out in the States.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Yeah. The shows are not okay. That's interesting that you mentioned that's like that in New York too, though, because I
Oh
mean,
yeah. I mean New York, because also New York that has a thing of where there's like the best of the best goes there. So like on any block you can find like the best of the best. I mean, there's even people that busk and they're
mhm,
like almost award winning back in the day, like singers, but they just
mhm.
have fell on bad times, things happen, but they can really sing. Like you can feel it. But ain't nobody putting a dollar into the bucket. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, people be standing, but oh my gosh, you were so great. Thank you. Yeah, my subway just came in, so I'll see you later. Bye. And then just go in and be like,
Yeah,
how much did it touch you that you couldn't take out at least a
like
dollar or
a
two?
dollar. I know. Yeah, man. Oh man, I did busking for a long time too, so
Oh, really?
I know the pain. Yeah.
What did you do busking here or back in
No,
Cali?
I did it for a while in the U.S. For like about yeah for quite a few years. For maybe like 7 years.
Wow.
Sometimes it was actually I'd quit my job in Berkeley. It felt like a bit of a dead end, and I was suffering from some really bad mental health at that time in life and needed a little change of direction, needed a new life plan, needed to do something that was going to fulfill me. And I thought I was busking. I started busking like in San Francisco, and I'd go to Haight Ashbury and stuff. That
Wow.
was a very romanticized. That was like a big. I was like, holy shit, I'm busking on Haight Ashbury. How cool! The home of the hippies. Playing the Grateful Dead at Haight Ashbury, and so people start to put in I started to see how much money I could be making just from busking and realize I could probably, I mean, not making as much as I would at my job, but like
Yeah.
still I can quit and I can maybe try and do that. And so I did for quite some time, and
Wow.
traveled around the West Coast, and started to learn the tricks of the trade. But part of what I didn't like about it eventually, which is also part of why I moved from Freiburg to
Mhm.
Berlin, is that in order to make money off of doing that, just being a guy with a guitar, a lot of people want you to play specific songs, and they're not necessarily songs that you like. So this guy, like, once I was busking, and he said, "Learn wagon wheel. Wagon wheel will get you the money. So what are you doing this for?" I was like, kind of complaining. I was like, "It's a bad money day. People aren't giving money today." And he's like, "Dude, if you play this song, you'll get money." And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of want to just play songs that I like. That's my whole, if I am doing covers, then I want to do songs that I like." So
Mhm.
um, I remember I learned Wagon Wheel. I got all the money from Wagon Wheel.
So it did work.
Oh, of course, yeah, it's a formula. Yeah, the guy was right. Yeah, it's like
It's like, don't reinvent the wheel. Just, go with the wagon wheel.
play the Wagon Wheel.
Yeah, that's the wheel. Why reinvent the wheel of the wagon?
Yeah, which I did actually. I made my own cover of it eventually because I wanted to change it, but make a parody of it. And the song itself is about hitchhiking around the South. I'd
Mhm.
never been to the South, so instead I rewrote the lyrics as a song about me busking up and down the West Coast.
Mm.
And then it was my song, and it was fun for me again. But that started to lead me into the world of what I call commissioned work as a
Mm.
street musician,
Yeah.
and where you're playing songs like I do like cover songs. Like my band plays cover songs, but we're playing songs I love. We play a lot of like Rancid. We play Green Day. This is like punk rock music that I really like. I mean, Green Day is kind of accessible to most people, but like Rancid, that's a little more obscure. Like if I cover Anti Flag or something, people aren't gonna, if they're walking down the street, they're not gonna be like, "Oh, let's give him $5." But if they hear Wagon Wheel, they're like, "Oh, let's give him $5." They're Bob Dylan, they're like $5. But I do like Bob Dylan. That's
Yeah.
the thing, is like trying to find the Venn diagram where something I love that's gonna make me money because other people who give money for music love it too. Um,
Yeah. Venn diagram. I
but
like
then
it.
I was like playing in southern Germany, and I was actually starting to make some pretty decent money playing at the taverns around the Black Forest. It was cool, but they all want you to play like country roads, dude. And I'm like, I don't really like this song. Like, it's
Ooh,
okay,
yeah.
it's just not. I would never choose to play country roads. It was never ever
That was
like, it's
not your
not on my
dream.
list of like things I would want to, if I could. It's like thousands and thousands of songs down the list of songs I'd want to cover. I don't really. I'm not. West Virginia is that really a cool place? I don't think so. I mean, it's very, yeah. I don't know. I've never been there, but it's not. It doesn't seem very cool. I don't
Yeah.
see why everyone's.
What's the big deal about it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, but so then you go, and the Germans, they love country roads. Country
Mm.
roads is the wagon wheel of Germany.
Wow.
In the same way,
How'd you learn that?
by just trying to play music here.
And you're usually like, oh, well, something need to
I
work. I
started
don't
to
know.
notice the pattern. Hey, will you play country roads? Hey, you play country roads? Hey, you're from America. You have a guitar. You must play country roads.
Wow. And I guess I don't know what I'm assuming they tipped a lot too, probably.
Of course, yeah, no, yeah, it's love it. The whole bar is singing along. It gets crazy. Everyone gets whipped up into a frenzy of
Wow.
country roads. Yeah.
That's wild. Wow. So you experiencing Germany on a different level.
Yeah, but I'm like, uh, in Berlin, there's more outlets and avenues, and an audience for people who like originality
Yeah.
and creativity and more niche cover stuff.
Hmm.
So that's again also part of what drew me here, because then I was like in Freiburg, and I'm like, I don't know, it's feeling like a little bit of a dead end. And let's go see what happens if I go. And again, success, like, uh, people here are very open, receptive, and loving of new, cool, interesting shit.
Oh
So
yeah, they are.
Yeah, so it's all working out. It's all working out.
That's cool that it is working out, man. And what would you say were some of the things that you learned from busking that has applied well to like you doing art in Berlin?
Um, I mean, I think that being a live performer, one of the main differences between doing that versus doing just purely videos and film work and maybe social media stuff is like the crowd work and how to interact with your people, with the audience, with the crowd. And the busking is that was just so valuable for that.
Mm,
Really really just being able to talk to the people. It's not it's and instead of like when you're on a stage and in a venue, then there's this kind of like there's the fourth wall. There's a separation. There like the audience is like they're very aware. I'm in the audience and you're on the stage, but
yeah.
on the street you're just at the same level, and people come for better or worse. I mean, sometimes people harass you and shit. That's really annoying.
Get off
But
this corner.
yeah, or like yeah, drunk people and yeah, coming and bothering you and stuff. But like then also you on the plus side, you really get to talk with people, and sometimes they say why they liked your song. They're going to give you feedback, more negative and positive. Like, being
Mm.
like, "Oh, I really love that." I remember even one guy being like hanging out and enjoying my music, and he's like, "I love that song you played. I can't believe those people sat there and listened to it, a whole song, and didn't give you any money." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, it was an original." So, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you what." And he's like, "You know how you played Johnny Cash?" And he's like, "You play Johnny Cash again, then the next people that come by, I'll bet they'll give you $5." And it's like, "All right, let's do some more cash for the cash. Here we go." And boom, once again, like there the he was it was so funny. Somebody came, they listened to my Johnny Cash cover, they put $5 in, and that was
Oh
just
shit.
from me chatting with this guy who was liking my original stuff, and then he gave me a little money too. And but like you have that interaction, you have a lot of the crowd work, you have a little more honest communication. I think um, that public space makes it so that you know all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. But when you're just on the street, that street is truly that stage of you and everyone else. You're all the same there, kind of in a way where
Mm.
in your establishment, it's there's this social contract of like there's the performer and there's the audience, but and it's all blurred when you're just out in the public space, I think.
Yeah, there's no walls literally, so there's no fourth wall to be even constructed anywhere
Yeah, yeah,
on the street.
yeah, people are just like, oh, okay, I'm here in the subway and this chick's here in the subway playing some tunes. Cool. All right, let's
Yeah.
chat a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, nice.
It's like, oh, where you from? Where's the stand? How you doing this? Blah blah.
Yeah.
That
Uh,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I think it really helped it really helped craft in that respect. Also other aspects of my performance work, like where I've hosted pub trivia nights and doing stand up and stuff, and so much of all that being having to do with interacting with your crowd. Because
Mhm.
before I was busking, a lot of my training and background was like in like scripted theater and
Ah,
doing rehearsed stuff.
right.
Um, other than my improv that stuff I was doing for music and for a lot of I was in plays and stuff, but it was always like there was a script. But it's nice to work those muscles where you get off script and you like
Oh yeah.
are just completely improvising, bullshitting with the people and building that connection in that way, which is as a live performer the most powerful thing.
So powerful. So powerful.
Yeah,
And also too, you have a podcast, you said, right? You have like a
yeah.
yeah, or have yeah, I don't know, you said podcast that's it's out there.
It is. It's on hiatus right now because my co-host is out on sabbatical. Um, I and he he's a German guy,
Okay.
and then I was busting his balls, calling he's a social worker. I'm like, sabbatical? Are you a professor or something? And he's like, he got really pissed off. He's like, it is a sabbatical. It's a sabbatical. Why are you making fun of me? I'm like,
And it was like,
just,
whoa, it just
it's
doesn't
because
exist where I'm from.
for where yeah, where we're in the US, it's like for professors and like hoity-toity people. Just a
Yeah.
regular Joe. And then he sent me the definition on it's like texted me. He's like, see, I am going on sabbatical. It's just an extended period of leave from any job, not necessarily without any context of the profession. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Wow.
You're on a sabbatical, dude. You're not on a vacation. You're on a sabbatical.
Sabbatical from a podcast is hilarious.
Well, no, he's. I mean, we're subsequently on a sabbatical from the podcast, but he works at a real job too.
Oh, okay. I thought
we don't make any money.
Okay, I was like, wow, what kind of podcast y'all have to be issuing sabbaticals? That's. Yeah, let me know how to run that type of podcast. It gives.
Yeah, we run a D&D podcast, but we're not Dungeons and Daddies. That's a podcast that's famous enough to have a sabbatical, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But us, we're teeny, we're niche, we're nothing. He works as a social worker, so
okay.
very stressful job.
Yeah.
So he's out in like Nepal or something enjoying the sabbatical.
Wow.
But we'll be back in 2025. But yeah, we have like quite a few, I think like 15 episodes out there or something. 14. And it's about Dungeons and Dragons. But it's about the second edition, which was the version that was out in the 90s. And I was actually going to mention wanted to talk a little bit about that because there's a little bit of a third culture aspect that we cover on our podcast, which is talking about sometimes we tend to drift to other topics, but we always try and have Dungeons and Dragons be like the core, the anchor. But then if we are drifting off, it's something that's kind of somehow related. But we often end up discussing the differences between German and American culture, particularly about growing up. It's also kind of a 90s nostalgia podcast. So we talk about what it was like growing up in the 90s, playing Dungeons and Dragons, like in Germany or in the US. And in the first episode, we talk about the story of how we met, which was I was at a NoFX show, and then had gotten pretty drunk at the NoFX show. I was visiting from Freiburg to see the show here in Berlin, and we got on the train. And you know how after a show, sometimes the train becomes the unofficial after party or sporting event. You're like, oh my God, here come the Hertha. The Hertha fans, look out. Like everyone comes charging on. You're like, And there's like, yeah, singing and stuff.
Right.
And so like, the train was like the NoFX after party. And I saw this guy, and he was, had a NoFX shirt, and he was cool. And we were talking. And one thing we love about NoFX is that they're kind of like, they're a little bit of a comedic punk band, or they just broke up, you know, R.I.P. NoFX. But they have this comedy to their songs a lot of times. There's a lot of tongue in cheek stuff. And this was back in 2018. So they had just been canceled for making a shitty joke, which they do. Their whole career, they've just been saying offensive stuff. But then the cancel culture started to become really prevalent around that time, and it caught up with them and bit them in the ass because they talk some shit about some shooting victims in Vegas, which I do not think is cool. But like, I also am like, they're assholes, and it's kind of their thing. So, you know, like, it's not unexpected for them to be saying stupid shit that I don't agree with necessarily. But then they had all their shows canceled and stuff because like out of the US, and then they were still allowed to tour in Europe. So they were here. And then at the end of their show, they did a little lip sync to a song from Avenue Q. Do you know that? Everyone's a little bit racist. Do you know that song?
I don't know.
It's an intentional un-PC song. And they like it talks shit about the PC culture and stuff. And so they intentionally, of course, did that at the end of their set to say like, look, we apologize for making the shitty joke, but like this song, it's like everyone's an asshole, like we're assholes, like whatever.
Right.
And so I was talking with this guy on the train about that, and I said, you know, I wrote my first comedy song in German. And he's like, oh, let's hear it. And see, I had been couch surfing in Berlin, and I was asking about the different neighborhoods of Berlin, and I was staying with this German woman, and I asked her like, what's the neighborhoods like? And she said, she's rattling them off, talking about what they're like. And she was like, Prenzlauer Berg. And she's like, Prenzlauer Berg. I don't like Prenzlauer Berg. And we were talking in German. And I go, what do you not like about Prenzlauer Berg? And she goes, es ist voll mit schwangere, vegane, schwäbische Frauen. And
Something. Frauen is
how's your German?
yeah, Frauen is woman. Is it woman?
Frauen is woman.
Okay, and then say that
Schwangere, vegane, schwäbische Frauen.
Schwäbische. Damn, Schwäbisch. Oh, it's some region. It's some type of German.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you've been learning. I've seen on your social
Okay,
media. You're learning the German.
I do.
You're like
Okay, so-
A2 now or B1?
Yeah, I don't even. I'm nervous to even test myself. I don't know.
This means the Schwäbisch is like from Schwabia, which is southern Germany.
Southern, yeah.
But it also can kind of become more of a blanket term for people who have moved to Berlin that are stuffy and transforming the city's culture for the worse.
Oh,
Because
okay.
a lot of, after the wall came down in the 90s, a lot of the property was cheap here. And a lot of the rich people from southern Germany, kind of near where I used to live in Freiburg, technically that's the former Duchy of Baden, and Schwabia is a little bit more to the west, but I shan't extrapolate on that. The Schwabish people from southern Germany would come up here, buy property, bring kind of their money into the city and their snobby attitudes, and they would try and like get a lot of the clubs shut down, the clubs which were these cultural cornerstones of the city, which are reasons people come to the city. And I discuss all this stuff like on my walking tours of Berlin. It's a big part of the city's story, like an ongoing one still today, right? But like, I think the Schwabenhass, the hatred of Schwabish people, I don't know. I think that that's past the peak from what I understand. I want to say, I don't know. But like, I think around like the 2000s, the early 2010s, there was like, people were really, really upset that at these transformations that were happening to their city and these attempted kind of eradications of their culture. You know, I even heard like there was a thing a couple years ago where they were going to try and shut down Spätis. You know,
What?
the late night shops that are open all night for Berlin party people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because it's an exception, because a lot of the rest of Germany doesn't have that. Again, that's another difference, because this is what makes Berlin different. Part of why I love it. You know, I'm a night person myself, so I love that there's Spätis on. But then, yeah, they want it quiet. The rest of the Germans love it quiet. You know, well, all Germans kind of do, I think.
Yeah.
But like even more in the rest of the country, they love their quietude. And then they come from Schwabia, they come here, and they're like, hey, it's really nice that there's clubs everywhere, but can everyone shut them the fuck up and close them at 10? You know, it's
Damn.
like,
Was that always a thing here in Berlin, or was that something that kind of came along with that whole transformation?
you mean the Schwabenhaus?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't know for sure, but I am sure that even if it was around before the 90s, it became more prevalent after that, because that's when people from southern Germany came to again cash in on this cheap real estate, basically. You know,
Yeah.
the cheap cost of living, and like, oh shit, like, you know, the wall just came down. There's a lot of cheap property here, property that's been neglected that we can renovate maybe, or just buy for a cheap price, and then it'll
hold
go
on
up
to
in
it.
value, and we can invest in it. And they started moving up here. But then it became this blanket term for people that just weren't from southern Germany, but also like anybody who's like that kind of coming in here and trying to shut the Spätis down and stuff. Those Schwabish bastards, you know, it could be an American, but the Schwabish bastard, you know?
Wow.
And so, but anyway, so Prenzlauer Berg was one of the biggest places where that happened, because that got transformed by the Schwabish influx, I think, more than any place in Berlin. You know, it was like people started gentrifying it. Now the gentrification is complete. Prenzlauer Berg is kind of famous for being this gentrified neighborhood, you know? And so that's why this woman that was talking shit about it threw that adjective on in there,
Okay.
noggin on it. And the other two words is schwangere. Schwanger is pregnant, and vegana, vegan. So these pregnant vegan Schwabish women of Prenzlauer Berg, she was complaining about them.
Wow, it's so specific. Is that the stereotype?
That is the stereotype of Prenzlauer Berg, though.
Really?
And true enough, in my experience, yeah, the Prenzlauer mammies are like these kind of hoity-toity embodiment of gentrification type mothers who are all over Prenzlauer Berg. And in 2005, Prenzlauer Berg had the highest toddler to adult ratio in the world.
Wow.
And still today, there's many, many kids there and families and stuff. So it's also really expensive. So that's why I moved out to Pankow.
Yeah, Prenzlauer Berg is very,
but Pankow is more and more like that too, from what I understand. But like anyway, so I thought this woman's phrasing, schwangere vegane schwäbische Frau, it had a flow to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's this phrase, and I'm like, that could be a fun comedy song in German, a love song to the women of Prenzlauer Berg. And it would go, schwangere vegane schwäbische Frau, liebe ich dich ganz genau, lassen wir uns nach Lindau reisen, schwangere vegane schwäbische Frau.
Yay! I don't know what you're saying, so I don't.
Yeah, you know,
I'm just snapping because it was on beat. I like the melody.
You're like, oh, he's not talking a bunch of shit.
My German level is 0.5, so I don't know what he's saying, but it sounded good.
But this is it's just it goes like, you know, let's travel to southern Germany together, and but like it's anyway, that I thought that was fun, and I wanted to write some comedy German songs. So I told this guy in the train, I said, I like no effects, I write comedy German songs. He said, let's hear a comedy German song, and I sang that for him, and he looks at me kind of like, I'm like,
oh shit.
Is this like the normal German stare, or shit, we were having a fun time, what's going on? And like, he's like, you know, we all live in Prenzlauer Berg, dude. Yeah. I'm like,
like, oh,
okay,
well, that was a joke. That was a joke.
Just getting in. Not you guys, of course, not you guys.
You guys are cool. You guys interested in my music.
Yeah, you like no effects, so you're not boring. So then he goes, look, I'll tell you what, why don't you come and party with us? Cause we're having the after party at my apartment.
Of course.
We're going to get crazy. And then you can say you have been to Prenzlauer Berg and you've spent some time there, because you should spend time in a place before you make fun of it. Don't you think? And I'm like, you know, that is the rules of making fun of things, isn't it?
Yeah, you got a point there, huh?
Yeah, I never been there. I just heard this lady talking shit and jumped on the wagon. So let's go. I hope I didn't get killed.
In the middle of Prenzlauer Berg.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good vibes from this guy. My judgment has improved since the Oakland days. I hope this should be all right.
You wasn't singing this time going to the apartment.
Yeah, this time.
You were silent.
We were singing the same song.
Yeah.
We were singing no effects together.
Yeah,
so.
you was acting quite Schwabish when he's like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's get Schwabish.
Schwabish.
Let's Schwab it up and hang out with these fuckers. So we went, and then we came into the apartment. This dude had all these like comic books and stuff, and he had all these Dungeons and Dragons books that were from the old school game from the 90s, the second edition. Wow. Which is what I played, but everyone's 5th edition now. Like the version of Dungeons and Dragons everyone's plays is 5th edition. It's been around for years. It's like, you know, all the old editions it's like playing an Atari or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's an old game system that is like very retro and like evokes nostalgia for people who were there, or when people who are younger look at it, they go, oh, that's like the kind of D&D my dad played or whatever, you know? And he had all these books and they were all in German. And I was like, holy shit. Like they published Dungeons and Dragons second edition in the 90s in Germany. Like it never even crossed my mind. I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
You know, and we got real excited, and me and this dude just started geeking out and looking at all his D&D books. And I'm like, wow, the player's handbook in German. This is so incredible. So cool. Everyone else was like, these guys are so fucking weird.
Yeah.
What's going on? Get a room, fellas.
I know. We thought we was partying.
Yeah, exactly.
This is D&D is not an after party event.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, cool. Loads of fun, guys. Loads of fun.
All right. Yeah, dragons and all right, wait your turn and multi-sided dice. All right, sounds like fun.
really, yeah, cool party, you guys. We're like, fuck off. We're initiating a bromance over here.
No,
So
leave us alone.
so we became really good friends. And I ended up moving in with this guy a few months later. I said,
Oh
I'm moving
wow.
into I'm moving to Germany. Do you have a place? And this is crazy because you know how it is to find a place in Berlin.
Yes.
And it's impossible. It's like, for some people it's literally impossible. It's sublet to sublet. It is so hard. There's no housing, there's a shortage, everything's expensive. You have to live in flats with roommates, like 10 roommates for 6 months, and then find the next place. And I know the deal. But this was one of the things where I felt like the universe was just really on my side. It's like when you really, there's some synchronicity, there's some shit going on cosmically in your favor at this time, And he said, why don't you come? I want to move out with my girlfriend eventually. I'm just kind of waiting. I want to get someone to live here because I have an Altmietvertrag. Do you know what that is?
Alt is old.
Oh, it's an old rental contract.
Oh, whoa.
Do you know the secret of the old rental contract?
They can't raise it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can't raise it. So they can't raise the price except for to keep up with inflation.
Right.
So if you're in Berlin and you have a place with like an old rental contract, you can keep the price of like the year you moved in, more or less. Like it goes up a little bit, but like he'd been living there since 2009. This was then in 2019. I was moving in. It's a 10-year-old contract.
Wow.
It was like insanely cheap, and it was a room for me with one roommate. Like it's insane. Like the luck is anybody who lives in Berlin knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, trust me, it is fucked.
It is. Yeah. That was a culture shock on my end. Yeah.
You know exactly the struggle there and exactly how lucky I must have felt. And then I moved in. He did, and we geeked out with D&D. He moved out to live with his girlfriend eventually. And then I moved. And then during COVID, I met a nice girl, and she moved in with me. And then she got pregnant. And then I realized I've become one of them.
Wow, look at that. Wow, look how karma hits. Look at you had a whole entire song, and now the song is playing against you.
Yeah, I've become the character in the stereotype of this neighborhood. And not entirely vegan. We do a lot of vegetarian stuff at home, but
well, I mean, slowly. This is how it happens. From you don't go straight from meat to vegan.
Oh no, my meat is increased. I used to be hardcore. Now I'm.
Oh really?
It's gone the other way with me. Yeah, I'm like.
They can't change me. I'm keeping it real.
That's part of it. We cook meat for him, and then I'm like, at first I was like, yeah, we'll make him some chicken, and I'll just make a chicken alternative. Yeah, I didn't anticipate how every single minute you can save when you have a kid is valuable. So like, I'm just cooking the chicken. I'll eat later. Damn, that chicken looks good.
Yeah, wow, it smells good too. Smells like the real thing.
And then the boy's eating it, and then he's like, "So I'm kind of only eating what you're eating. That's how this works. I'm watching what you're doing." Like, all right, I'll eat this. This is how we eat the chicken here. We're eating
only
the chicken.
Because of you. You got to learn how to eat chicken, right? I don't want to do this. It's only because of you.
Yeah. It's kind of.
I'm only a vegan until he turns 18. After 18, that's when I
then I'm going full fruitarian, dude.
Yeah, fruitarian.
Just fruit that falls off the tree of its own accord.
There you go.
Then this was like one of the biggest third culture things, and that's why on the podcast I started a podcast with this guy. We still like to talk a bit about the difference between life in Germany and life in the US, and tying that together. We have a German word after our break we do each time where we talk about a certain Dungeons and Dragons word and how it's different. What is in German and why, and how that's funny and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for you to learn German?
I still don't. it's weird because I don't know if I speak it or not.
You have a song fully so good that somebody in Prince Lauerberg was like, "Hey, come to my after party and let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons in German." You speak, you're advanced level.
Well, he didn't know. It was that part of the surprise, but he, um, I sometimes I talk to people and I have big conversations with them, and I say, "Yeah, I know my German's not so good," and they're like, "Dude, your German's good. Don't worry." And then other times, you talk with some Germans, and they're like, "Your German's horrible. Let's switch to English." And it's really situational. And what I've come to understand that is like, um, my accent's not very good, and the getting the words change.
Mhm.
The differences in words, the verbs and everything. The ending of the verb depends a lot on all these different factors of how the sentence is
Right.
constructed. So those aren't always perfect. My grammar's not always 100%. My
Ah,
accent's a little off.
right.
So if you're in the US, you know, and sometimes, I mean, the biggest city I lived in was like the Bay Area. So that's kind of my point of reference for the most multi-culti place I ever lived in the US. And sometimes people with an Asian background, maybe at a kiosk like a Späti, or as we call them in the US, convenience store,
Yeah.
might they might have an accent, so they ask you for your change, and at first you're like not exactly sure what they said, and you're like, "How much was it again?" And then they say it again, and your brain has to work a little bit to get
Mm,
around the accent,
right.
and it's not very much work. It's really easy actually. All you have to do is just be like, "Oh, he said $10.50, but he said it with a like an accent." So that took me a minute to, but that's the thing I think is what's happening with the German people that criticize my German. I think they're like just being assholes, and they're kind of
Ah,
being like, I don't want to do that extra work in my head, and I expect you to like have the language down really perfect if you're going to live here.
wow.
So if I have to do any work at all to try and figure out what you're saying because of your accent or your lack of grammar, then that kind of is upsets me, and I'm going to tell you have bad German, and we're going to switch to English because my English is better than your German. All their English is better than everybody's German,
Yeah, English.
So
Yeah, English.
they all speak English really good. So
Very good.
like and I think that's because they have those in their head, those standards, like where for that, if somebody's fucking up the grammar in German when they're talking to them, they're like, "Ugh." And so when they're learning English, they're doing a really good job of getting all that grammar down. And if that grammar is
Mm.
a little bit off, that's embarrassing for them. It's not perfect enough. And then they're like, that's why they're always saying, "Oh, my English is not so good." What's the joke? Then they launch into some. My English is not so good. I find that when a cultural similarity, and they just start
You like what?
little.
You have actual opinions, and you say English is bad? That's crazy.
They give you like a college thesis about like of why they think their English is bad in English, and you're like, your English is really good, dude.
Yeah, you like better than mine. This
Yeah,
is crazy.
yeah, seriously.
What is happening? I need to tighten up my English.
Yeah, you're like, can I learn English from you? Like,
Are you having classes soon?
I have a horrible accent. Please help me correct it. But yeah, so then most of the time when I speak with people, I think it works, and I have confidence in my maybe B2.1.
Oh, you
That's
got
where I
B
think
two
I'm
point
at.
one.
I think that's where I'm at.
Cause bro, I mean, again, you spoke about Dungeons and Dragons in German, and then also had a song. You have a song, bro, that you made.
That's easy. That's rehearsed lines.
True, but I mean, okay, I guess
You know what I mean?
fair enough.
Having
Yeah.
conversation, that's spontaneous. That's when but that's exactly how my German got good, was when, and I've heard other people talk about this too. You have to put yourself in a situation where they don't speak English, and you have to get those muscles working without any cop outs. And the two biggest spurts I had in my language learning, one was an intensive course I took in Freiburg, where it was like 3 hours a day, 5 days a week in class, and then 1 to 2 hours of homework each day on top of that.
Whoa.
Your brain is just so flooded with German that repetition, you're not getting away from it. You're not just there for an hour a day, and then the whole rest of your day is in English. It's like that's a pretty significant chunk of your day, of percentage of your time being awake that is being spent in German, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really helpful. But the other big growth spurt was when I worked at the Berlin Dungeon.
Mm.
And that was that's this tourist trap in Berlin where it's like a bunch of, yeah, it's stupid as fuck, but it can be pretty funny if you if you have the right mind about it. If you're into that sort of thing.
Right.
It's like, or if you're stoned and drunk enough, I guess. I don't know. You it can be pretty funny. Like there's all these actors that are just giving you these horrific history of medieval uh Germany,
Mhm.
and it's like a lot of gore, splatter comedy,
Ooh.
and it's cheesy humor. But I had to learn scripts in German for it as an actor, and that put me to the test. But then you also have to, um, so that really first off gets your mind into German when you have like a monologue, a 1 or 2 page monologue where it's like all German,
Wow.
and then on top of that, you have to improvise and interact with and do crowd work with people in German, but not just regular people. A lot of them are regular people, but also lots and lots of school groups of smart ass kids who are making fun of you, who are dogging on you, who are heckling you in German, and you got to fucking deal with that. That is getting thrown to the
Whoa.
fucking wolves.
Damn, bro. So you had an extreme German crash course. You had to learn German monologues and then deal with gory German, like,
Yeah.
medieval history and then fucking roasting kids.
The main thing was the kids, dude. They come in and they're like just talking shit, and you got to be like talking shit back, and like talking their,
Wow.
let alone in English is tough to do that, I think.
Yeah, regular English.
Yeah, just because kids are ruthless, like
Completely.
they sometimes they're no holds barred, dude. There's just
Yo, you had okay, that's how you know. Okay, yeah, of course you will learn German quickly with
that was
that.
like really, really.
Yeah, every day must be nerve-wracking because I mean, like, you just had to know the words to just combat against like some of these factors. Like,
Yeah, yeah, you learn them, but it puts that there's no bigger fire that was under my ass about it, you know?
wow, and that's your job, so you had to really, oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
hard.
So that's I don't know how you'd replicate that in
Mm.
other contexts, if you're not if you're not an actor working at the Berlin Dungeon. But like yeah, I guess any situation where you have to like go to the Kneipas with those really old German people,
Yeah,
like the 50 plus crowd, and they can be pretty unapproachable, as maybe you know.
yeah.
But like just try and find a way, especially if you're out of Berlin. I noticed when I lived in southern Germany, I first got to Germany, sometimes I go there and be chatting with some of these old guys, and they're actually a little more curious because they're not in Berlin where it's multiculti and there's Amis everywhere. Amis everywhere.
Uh-huh.
But like because it's a little more rare to meet an American, sometimes they'd be a little more interested in chatting with you. And then like they don't speak English, so when you're was struggling with A1, like just being like, okay, I have to be talking
Yeah.
German here with these guys, you know?
Ooh.
And then you have some drinks, and then things start getting flowing and conversational. And then there's a little bit more of that spontaneity, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, two questions I have to ask you, right? So, you're a tour guide. You're still a tour guide here in
Yeah.
Berlin? All right. So, what are the top three places that someone needs to visit here in Berlin as a tour guide? Like,
Aha. Well, see, this question, it depends on who you are and what you're looking for, because the city is, uh, again, why I moved here. There's so much shit going on. So it depends on what you're into. I can't recommend the same thing to the same person.
okay.
The one thing I say is in the middle of everybody's Venn diagram, though,
Mhm.
that like no matter who you are or what you want out of the city, if you're here for 5 hours on a layover at the train station, East Side Gallery, dude, is like just the coolest thing, the East Side Gallery,
Mhm.
because it's the Berlin Wall, and the art on it, the murals on it, all have to do with the themes of the wall, the freedom, the dictatorship, the division, the unity, the East, the West, and so powerful. And it's technically the world's largest open air art gallery, so you can go there anytime. Um, and um, I think there's just something beautiful and crazy about that. That on this piece of former military hardware that literally divided the world in half, that you get murdered for trying to jump across, now has all this beautiful art on it, that evokes these emotions and these thoughts about those kinds of things. It's very powerful and very cool, and I also think it just because of all those things, it sums up a lot of what the rest of Berlin is all about. Anything else I might recommend for you to go to do? Somehow I can maybe tie it in to that. Do you like the history of Berlin? Well, you're seeing the Berlin Wall. Do you like the art? Are you here for the clubbing? Well, check out the art on this wall, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, let's take me for example, right?
mhm.
I'm a I'm newly appreciating nature.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning that I wasn't really a naturist person until COVID forced that for me to have to care about nature more and
Yeah.
have to be outside. So I'm getting more into nature. History I'm into, museums I'm into. Partying, yes. Those king spot that's a little far left field for me. But let's just go with that. And I like good food, generally
But
speaking.
you've been to the party. I loved your thing where you were talking about the
Uh,
you went to the club and it was did you was it the saddest happy people or the happiest sad people?
Yes, happy to be sad and sad to be happy.
Yeah. So I know you checked out that was hilarious, dude. I know you checked out the scene.
Yeah, I've noticed that where not that much smiling, but a lot of music that you would think there'd be at least some
Yeah.
happiness, you know.
Um, so but you're thinking more of the nature and the food.
Nature, food, and history.
Um, I mean, let's see. Which part of history though? Because everyone love people a lot. I give a lot of the Wall Third Reich themed tours,
Right.
and it's, of course people love that, and this is the place to go on planet Earth if you're into that history, of course. So
Hmm.
that's what most people enjoy. But I think there's also a lot of other cool stuff. But let's see. So food, nature, history. Like I think for well for food, I'd say Mark Hall and Nine, dude. We
Oh,
talked about
right,
that a little
right.
earlier, but like so that's there's so much food there. And that place is cool. It was historically a food hall. It's been around since like before the war. It was one of many market halls. There was like 40 of them.
Wow.
And then they were all just named after numbers because Germans are so creative at naming things. So there's like Markthal 1 bis 40. Here ist Markthal 9. And it's like that one survived the war, so it's still Markthal 9, Market Hall number 9. Um, but the food there is so diverse and good. And so that's what I love about it. You can get a slice of a lot of different stuff there.
Nice.
And I give food tours of Kreuzberg, and that's our last stop on there because it's like the biggest and coolest display of the. It's actually a food and immigration tour. It's about how a lot of the food culture in Berlin, the good food culture, has been shaped by people who come here from other parts of the world,
Hmm.
and you really see that mashup so well illustrated in the Markthal 9.
Mm.
Um, so that's what I'd recommend for the food, because otherwise I would just say there's one place here, one place like Chaparro. Like if you want Mexican food,
Yeah.
best Mexican food, but then that's just one place. But like Markthal 9, you get like so much.
Ah.
You can explore whatever you kind of like there. Um, but so for nature, I mean, there's so many like little lakes that are just outside the city in
Hmm.
Brandenburg, that you can kind of take your pick. I don't know, like if I'd say one spot over another. I still haven't been to Wannsee, but from
All
what I
right.
understand, that is like a really nice place to be. I get the feeling maybe on the days where you would want to go there, everyone else does too. So it's kind of crammed.
Yeah.
That's what I've come to understand. But one of my favorite lakes is the Teglersee.
Mm.
That's a beautiful lake. I also teach. I did give mermaid swimming courses. Yes, here's a whole other thing. Um, now I have
Mermaids.
to talk about that. But where you take mermaid tails and I teach you how to swim as a mer person with a mermaid tail on. So you have your feet are tied together in a monofin,
Yeah.
and then you swim there. But I haven't done that in a couple years because I've been too busy since my son was born, and I think I'm gonna try and get back into it this year.
Wow.
I'm participating in the Merlympics over in Wolfsburg in May with the Wolfsburg Mermaid School, and so I've just started retraining as a mermaid myself. But I used to give the mermaid lessons over at Tegelerzee because there's this really beautiful beach there. There's also this ferry boat that takes you over to an island, and there's a lot of like cool trees and stuff. And there's a restaurant there where we had our lunch as part of the Mermaid Island experience. Um, but yeah, a lot of like trails to walk around the lake and stuff. Um, so I don't know, man. It's like not nature as we know it back in the U.S.
Mhm.
Because again, coming from Idaho and the West, California and everything, like in Oregon, there's like just like miles and miles of
Right.
of nature, real nature. Germany has these like parcels of tree farms, kind of. It seems like you're not really getting like nature as we know it in the U.S. in the west of the U.S. But if you just want to be around some trees, around the lake, there's so many lakes all around the surrounding areas in Brandenburg. So just any of those lakes, a lot of them are kind of very similar, I would say. So um, you can just go to them, and usually you can have a walk around, and there's paths and
Mhm.
stuff. But the one that's quite close is Teglersee, and it's a great. You can go swimming in the water. It's really nice, man. Got a
Mm.
really nice beach.
Have to check that out. Damn, I
Yeah,
didn't know you did mermaid stuff. That's a whole different,
it's a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a whole thing. I mean, we'll get to that another time, but that's crazy. So,
Yeah, that's something, I wanted to do more when I came to Berlin, but, I found out in the swimming pools, they only allow you to do mermaid swimming in, like, 1 or 2 pools at, like, certain times in the evening, and I thought maybe I could regularly give swimming lessons, and there are people doing that. That's where I've starting to retrain with somebody who's doing that. But, yeah, then I thought, "Oh, I'm just gonna do this in the summertime at one of the actual lakes." Because I don't want to go to a pool. I want to do it in the daytime. I want to do it when I can.
yeah.
And so yeah, we did a photo shoot. And we dress you up in makeup, and you get the full mermaid experience. You learn how to be beautiful, confident with your body, and then how to be a real ambassador to the water elemental world. And you learn how to swim like a mermaid and do a basic 101 mermaid swimming lesson. I might bring it back. I'm gonna work on bringing it back this summer, so I do wanna plug that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, go
Uh,
ahead. If you want to learn to be a mermaid, come to this guy. I didn't even know that was I thought I was only in movies. I didn't know it was a real. I saw some photos of it, and I thought it was like for a photo shoot. But now hearing how you explaining it, this is like a full blown. I mean, how I, I'm just trying to think. Like, suppose you're trying to like just tread water. I mean, can you tread water as a mermaid?
yeah, it's a little easier, I think, actually, even because your tail is going back and forth, and you're kind of like moving your toes, to move your tail. But then if you do that movement combined with just this with your hands,
Yeah.
something about it, something about that just yeah, it keeps you up.
Damn. So you gotta have like strong toes to be a mermaid, huh? So
Yeah,
you
it
gotta
works
keep
your
it.
core. It works your it works muscles that aren't worked with like regular
Damn,
swimming.
so your ankle's probably made out of steel, bro. Just like just,
Ankles of steel,
yeah, just
yeah.
grrr,
That's how I
step
deal
on
with
an ant, grrr,
that's how I deal with those cobblestones all over this city. Like, yeah. It's like
Ye-
these things are painful. I gotta figure out a way to get calluses on these suckers.
Mermaid training will help you walk better on land.
It's a recreation of the emergence of life.
This is just that's wow. Oh, Berlin, you gotta love it. So many different things you can do. So
And then the to your question about the historical place where I would go, I mean, I think that uh the Deutsches Historisches Museum, I think it's still closed. Whenever it's gonna reopen, I don't know. I went there when it was open. It was awesome. Such a comprehensive look at all of German history, and I think that's super cool. I also think it's good for people to look at other parts of German history other than just the wall and the Third Reich era, because that's like in our the public consciousness, the 20th century is like all we kind of know of Germany. So
Mhm.
I think it's kind of cool to look at all the other stuff. But that's me personally. I also think that for people just wanting to learn about German history, go get that big window comprehensive look by going to the museum and seeing the whole thing. But because those parts of 20th century history are so fascinating, um, I'd say like the Berlin Wall Memorial on Bernauer Straße is a really nice place to go. And if you go on Sunday when the Mauer Park party is happening, then you can make a whole kind of day of it where you're going and seeing the Berlin Wall, visiting all these interpretive sites about how that all went down. Also, a very powerful reminder of why division and war are bad, okay? And unity is good. And just the horrible things that happened in the Cold War with the Berlin Wall. Um, but it's not so dark like that you're visiting a concentration camp,
Mhm.
where you're just whole kind of like after you go to a place like that, you're gonna have to. You don't want to go to the Mauer Park party after that. You want to just sit in a bench and stare into space and cry for an hour or so, like it's so dark to do concentration camp tourism. So it's a little dark to see the Berlin Wall, but and people did die trying to get across. So,
Yeah.
it's like you can't say value one life for another when people are killed in tragic circumstances and stuff, I guess. But like you're still not like so mentally fucked up by seeing the Berlin Wall as you are from visiting some of the Holocaust tourism and stuff in Berlin. So you get to go and see that. And then at the end of it, it's like quite a few blocks and it's really cool. A lot of interesting information. And then seeing parts of the wall that are still standing, which is cool. So you're actually seeing an authentic part of history, not a recreation,
Mm.
which is in a lot of places all things are. And then
Right.
at the end, if you're there on a Sunday, boom, Mauer Park party. And what's cool about that is then you just saw all this history of the wall, all this dark stuff.
Mhm.
And then you're in a park where the wall used to stand and you weren't allowed in this park. It was like verboten because it was where the Berlin
Wow.
Wall used to be. So during the Cold War, during the wall era, it was closed off. But now you're seeing it and it's like a bunch of people having a fun time together. It's families enjoying from all around the world, all different kinds of cultures, a huge melting pot.
Wow.
Um, just great food, great drinks. And then there's like the famous karaoke that happens there, which
Oh, I've
like,
heard
so
this. Yeah.
yeah, there's a karaoke. And so literally, I know literally is an overused word, but here I literally mean literally. You're in a place where if you traveled back in time 40 years ago and were standing in that same spot, you'd get shot and killed because it was the dividing zone between two halves of like the earth. And then now you're in a place where people from around the world are literally having fun and singing together, you know?
That is wild. Damn. Yeah, especially when you put in historical context of like how things used to be not too long ago.
Yeah, 40 years ago, like less than 40 years ago,
Yeah, that's like
like
this people still
35 years ago.
alive, even like, during that time still. That's
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, man. So,
yeah. I
you,
have to check that out, man.
yeah,
All right. So one more question I have to ask you, right?
yeah.
So all the things you've been through in terms of from Idaho, from you being to Oakland, you singing along the streets and having a fun experience there, from you moving to Berlin, doing what you're doing now, what's the one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, man. It's all,
Yeah, you've been through a lot of different cultures, man. So
um, well, I wanted to move to to Europe like in 2008. Maybe I should have just done it then. The thing was, I was going to move and then the global economy collapsed a week before. This is the
oh,
global crisis.
yeah.
I had a one-way ticket to Barcelona and uh I I didn't go cuz then a week before I was going to go, the global economy collapsed. So I just said, I'm not, fuck, no way. Not a good time. There's no, all of a sudden the police are beating the shit out of everyone in Barcelona on the street. And people under 30 are all of a sudden at 50% unemployment rate, which is my age at this time. So not going to find work if I go there. And if I'm playing street music, I don't think anyone's going to give me money. So let's not do it. And then life took other paths, and I ended up coming here. But I think, I wish I would have, instead of waiting 8 years to come over, I wish I would have just waited for like a couple years and then followed through with that plan. But I think a lot in my life, it's not just that situation, but many others where I haven't like stayed committed to one thing long enough. That's why I do so much shit still today, and I've had to like cut some shit because parenthood forces you to do that. So like instead of doing like this and that and this, I would still love to be doing stand up. Honestly, like it was so fun. As you know, right? It's like
Yeah.
a super fun performance art, a super fun way to be on stage. But I had to get serious and like cut that and like stay focused. And now I'm like a little, because the parenthood fired in my ass, staying more focused on the things I'm doing. Um, like, so I think if I go back to the younger self, I'd say, hey, look, dude, just remember to stay focused and go for it, and and work on following through with things, and don't let um hardship and obstacles frustrate you out of following through. Stay resilient. If something seems tough, just stick with it. Yeah, okay, the global economy collapsed, but you want to go live in Europe? Like, I mean, just go. Like now it's 2810. Like things have gotten a little, they bounced back a little bit. Like things have resurfaced. Your life is things are a little bit back to normal. Go for it now. You know, just go for it and stay focused.
That's short, simple. Like, I mean, obviously with the background of what you mentioned, but just to encapsulate that, just stay focused and do it,
Yeah.
which we all need as artists. Cause one thing about artists, ADHD is pretty much one in one. Let me
Yeah.
do this, let me do that, this, so
Yeah, and that's what I was when, like I was saying, when I came to Berlin, I was like, "Wow," and, like, I wanted to make comedy music, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, there's open stage nights for music, and there's also stand-up nights, and then, oh, maybe I could do," and it's just all of a sudden, like,
oh yeah.
and, I'll take improv classes so that I can, learn to do crowd work better. Oh, I kinda wanna do improv too again. Oh, yeah, and, like, yeah, you just it's you stay so just focus it up, buddy. Just
Yeah.
choose the one thing, follow through with that, and of course, yeah, got got my ass into gear on that. Now that my time is extremely limited for those things, that'll force it.
And now you're doing your thing, musical improv, right?
Yeah, so I'm doing we do some musical improv in my improv troupe, but I'm with Naked Flamingos comedy troupe. We have a regular monthly show at Improv Works, and then occasionally other shows as well, where it's short form improv comedy, where we just take suggestions from the audience and do games and scenes and sometimes musical stuff. For comedic purposes, make fools of ourselves to make you laugh. And then I've got my rock band, which is something I've been wanting to do since I came to Germany, but just hadn't found the right people, and I finally did, which
Nice.
is really great. And that is doing pretty well. We're playing around places. We don't have anything set up at the moment in Berlin, where we're playing in Netherlands this weekend, but we're actually in a transition where we're getting a new drummer. So we're gonna get our new drummer trained up, and then we're gonna have some shows coming up in 2025, I'm sure. Um, and then, yeah, those were the 2 things I've been doing the last 2 years. And so now, and giving, tours, and, of course, tour guide work it tends to make a little more money than all that other stuff. I also was doing the podcast, so that was once a month. Yeah, the Hack and Slash, the AD&D podcast will also be back next year. But now this year I'm trying to bring back also doing some of my solo stuff, my solo musical comedy show, and then also the mermaid swimming stuff, because I'm just thinking of with a lot of the time I spend doing the tour guide work, of just kind of slowly replacing that with some of these other
Mm.
things. But it's a huge balancing act, doing all this stuff and being a stay-at-home dad is like,
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
yeah. So I still always finding the balance, but and God damn, dude, with my wife, just a freaking angel and put up with me, like to put up with I just love her so much. I cannot believe like that she's like,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I feel bad. I'm like,
Like, I'm sorry, I'm just juggling. Like,
sorry, you married an artist,
Yeah. She's like, I didn't know I married a juggler. Yeah, it just comes along with the territory. Just
She knew that before we had the kid and before we got married, to be fair.
okay. Well, that's
Yes.
good.
And but yeah, she's so supportive of it, and I'm really lucky that is something that's a factor in this lifestyle that cannot be ignored, and it actually should be given the most props to out of anything really, because but I just love this life of being a dad and being an artist and doing all this stuff, and I think Berlin is just such a great city for it because it has actually a big family support in this city.
Yeah.
There's playgrounds like everywhere. There's places for kids to go be creative everywhere, for kids to go be kids. It's a very family friendly city. And then at the same time, it's this big nightlife city.
Hmm.
So, like, that's part of the reason that I'm thankful for being here. And that as much as like it's easy to complain sometimes about shit, like where you're like, these staring people, people just barking at you on the street, the transit's late all the time, the weather's so gloomy for 8 months straight, blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
the pros still outweigh the cons, and a lot of that has to do with just being an artist who's a dad. Those two lifestyles just so supported so well here.
Yeah, and you juggling it well, man. I mean, because you still have your sanity, so that's good. And
Well, whatever level of it I originally had.
All right, maybe I spoke too.
I don't know. Have you seen my act where I dress up like a giant chicken?
I have not. So yes, I felt like I was. I haven't assessed you fully yet to really make that.
Yeah.
Oh shit! But bro, thank you very much for doing this, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks. It's been great.
Yeah,
It's been
man.
great.
Thank you very much. And guys, thank you very much for listening and/or watching the Third Culture Talk podcast. I'm your boy Nyan Yenifin. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yeah.